This is your weekly real estate update for the greater Portland, Maine area. These are closed sales in the last 7 days, median numbers. Days on market ticked up to 8 days on market. The list to sale ratio still at 100%. People still getting what they're asking for their homes. The median sold price went up to $550,000. The average 30-year fixed interest rate came down a little bit to 6.67%, and your U.S. inflation still at 2.4% year over year. Got two things to talk about today. The first one is the jobs numbers that came out, a little bit stronger than expected, and then we're going to touch on the big, beautiful bill, some changes that are general, and then some real estate specific ones. So job numbers. Remember that the Fed bases their interest rates, whether they cut or raise rates, on a couple of big things that they follow. Of course, inflation being one of those, but another thing they follow is the job market. If the job market is really strong, the Fed is unlikely to cut rates. If the job market comes in weak, rates are more likely. So the job numbers came in, more jobs created than expected, and in addition to that, the unemployment went down when it was expected to go up. So that reduces the likelihood that the Fed will cut rates in July. There's actually a 75% chance, they say right now, that rates are going to stay the same in July. So let's pivot from that to the big, beautiful bill. Okay, so first off, it's like over 900 pages. So I'm certainly not going to get to everything today. I want to give you a couple little things to think about and some thoughts on the bill. Overall, I would say that you have to know that the biggest thing that happened was the 2017 tax cuts that Trump and the administration put in place before have now been locked in for a longer period of time. In addition to that, there's definitely wins and losses in this bill, but overall, what it looks like to me, and that's just my opinion, is that people who have the least money gain the least, in the middle maybe gained a little bit more, and wealthy people gain the most from the bill. Let's get a little bit specific on what was gained and lost. So first, talking about the losses, the requirements to maintain and have Medicaid and SNAP have been increased. So people are going to have to maintain employment. People are going to have more regular checks to keep the eligibility for those things. So of course, that most affects people of lower income. So that's a thing against them. And then the benefits of the bill really impact that population the least. So some of their benefits might be taken away if they don't meet the requirements. And on top of that, they're not really getting much more money back, as opposed to uber wealthy Americans, where there's a lot of benefits that came through. So I'm going to read these because there's a lot of it. Let's just talk about some of those benefits. So the first one is that there are, we already talked about that, cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. No taxes on tips and overtime. That's up to $25,000 on tips and up to $12,500 on overtime. Standard deduction increased. So if you were filing as an individual, your standard deduction is now $15,750. If you're married, filing jointly, it's $31,500, and if you're head of household, it's $23,625. So an increase across the board there. The SALT deduction increased from $10,000 to $40,000. The senior tax deduction went up for people over 65. They can now deduct an additional $6,000. You can now deduct a car loan up to $10,000 annually. Bigger estate tax exemption. So you can now pass $15 million to your heirs tax-free. I'm sure that's going to affect a lot of us. The child tax credit increased from $2,000 to $2,200 per child. Savings accounts for kids. So if you have a child under 8 years of old, $1,000 gets put into that account, and then you can add tax-free $5,000 to that account each year. There is a voucher now for private schools and homeschoolers, $5,000 in tax credits towards education. Huge spending on defense, $25 billion towards the Golden Dome. Huge spending on border control, $130 billion on various things there. And then a big one was the green energy rollback. So there was a lot of incentives previously in place to encourage people to use energy efficient cars, energy efficient appliances in their home. A lot of those things have been taken away now. So those are just some of the general things. I would say definitely talk to your CPA and talk to them early to see if these things impact you, if there's things you can take advantage of or things you have to be aware of losing. Now let's move on to the real estate specific stuff. So 100% bonus depreciation continues to be available. This is for real estate investors. Depreciation on a piece of property you might own. How do you want to do it? Do you want to cost segregate it? Do you want to spread it out? Or do you want to take 100% depreciation on that? There is a $2.5 million for the 179 itemized depreciations, and the 1031 exchange remains in place. That means, hey, I sell property over here, I take the money and move it directly to a comparable property over here. I don't have to pay taxes now. I'm deferring them as long as I maintain that real estate. Mortgage interest deductions remain at 100% for investors, as well as real estate taxes, 100% deductible again for investors, a little bit different on your personal property. Overall, I think that kind of how this personally hit me this past week was I know a couple of people who are in green energy. I know some people who are big time real estate investors. There were tears and there was celebration. And I think that what I would say is there's a lot of people who are going to be impacted by this bill. And just to remember that everyone's situation is different, but you can be sure you know people who this is going to hurt and possibly people this is going to help. So this week, Maine continues to be hot. Maine continues to roll at a greater pace than the rest of the United States. We're probably not going to see interest rates drop in the next couple of months. And talk to your CPA about the big beautiful bill. Make sure that you are putting things in place if there are benefits or losses that might affect you. I hope you have a great week. If you have any questions, give me a call. As always, talk to you soon.